What is going on, everybody? We are back once again with another edition of Wrestling Republic's daily broadcast. It is Thursday, May 30th. Believe it or not, we're almost halfway through the year. What in the world is going on? I attended Dynamite last night. It's Throwback Thursday. I'm fired up to be here. We have a sweet, not to bury the lead here, but we have a sweet throwback topic on tap for everybody. We'll be talking about the red and black, the NWO Wolfpac for sure at the end of the show. But before we do that, we're going to break down the Dynamite at the LA Forum that I attended last night. I've got the wickedest crew in the business, the sweetest two dudes riding with me. First, I'm going to send this one out to Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, to my good friend, head of opinions, Anthony Ricciardi. What's up?
I mean, listen, we have a too sweet topic, throwback topic with a not too sweet Dynamite last night. It's been an eventful week in wrestling. Last night was not one of those. So let's have some fun, tear some things apart, just like the NWO, leave some people spray paint it. Let's have some fun.
Absolutely. This is going to be a fun day for sure. I will say I had an absolute blast. Me and my mom took over Dynamite basically. It was all time, sat in awesome seats on the floor and just an absolute blast all around. No doubt about it. But there was some funky stuff on that show last night. But before we get into that, I gotta send this one out to the DMV. Get your twos up for the Tuesday Night Delight himself. What's up, Shoddy?
What's good, fellas? I am excited to be here. I'm very excited for the throwback topic. As y'all said, it is too sweet. And man, down might happen. Let's get into it.
Absolutely. I'm stoked to get into it. Get the twos up. Get the two sweets up. Let's Bobby Petito's got his twos up already. Numero one Superfly with Hello Okada telling the fans the B word and celebrating with the Elite was hilarious. It was. That was one of the moments of the night for sure, and we'll laugh about that later. My mom with the Dynamite emojis.
The moment of the night.
We had a blast last night. Absolutely. But let's get into our first topic, which is Mercedes Mone and Skye Blye. I loved the initial segment. I thought it was cool. It was funny seeing them set up the balloons in the arena. Interesting. I actually thought it was going to end up being an Elite celebration when they were putting the balloons out until I realized I'm like, oh no, it's Mercedes.
Yeah.
And the Skye Blye entrance was great. The matchup was fun. The match totally delivered. We got some great pictures. At least in the building, it landed 100%. I don't know as much how it looked on TV because I actually haven't rewatched this one yet. I've rewatched some of the matches, but this is one I have not rewatched on TV. Now, don't get me wrong, I was probably the most engaged I was all night during this match specifically, but I want to get you guys' thoughts from watching it on television. Anthony, I'm going to start with you. How did you feel about it? First title defense. I thought Skye Blye looked really good, and I didn't mind her promo and challenge.
The problem I have with this, and I do have a problem with it, is they need to make a decision. Is Mercedes a face or a heel? They can't seem to decide. She's a natural heel. I don't know why they can't make a decision on this. And they're, Jekyll and Hyde in this, whether or not she's a face or a heel. I didn't like the fact that, they teased some weeks back who attacked Mercedes and then kind of dropped it. And they're like, oh, by the way, I'm the one who jumped you. Okay, that's great. But this is a one and done match. Like she's done with Willow apparently because she was just the transitional champion, which is what I was afraid was going to happen. Willow wasn't even on the show. And Skye Blye got dumped by like a hot potato because now the focus is on Forbidden Door's opponent, which is the CMLL Women's Champion. So it's like, this could have been something for Mercedes going, okay, she's going on to a feud with Skye Blye, trying to make Skye Blye a bigger star there by feuding with Mercedes. They're not doing that. It was a one and done. She jobbed at the Mercedes and the focus is now on the CML champ. I think that's the problem where there's no focus. Like Willow's out of the picture. Skye's presumably out of the picture. And now you're focusing on somebody else. I did like the package they did for the CML NXLVL Women's Champ, which I don't remember her name, so that's why I'm just calling her that. You know, what was it?
Stephanie Vakir.
Okay. You know, I like the package to try to introduce the audience of who this person is. I thought that was a good move. I am curious to see where this feud goes, but as a whole, I'll be perfectly honest. I dozed off part of this match. Like, that's how bored I was with this episode.
Ooh, I would not go that far with this match.
No,
At least
I
there were
legitimately did.
definitely points, but I will say this one specifically for me, I thought for a one night build, it was really cool. I thought Skye Blue was the perfect candidate for it. She looked really good in this match. I mean, the Meteora, and don't get me wrong, it was Mercedes who delivered the Meteora off the apron, but that one, the sell and to take that bump, Skye Blue to me did look excellent last night, whether the booking was proper or not. And so I got to give Skye credit. Like I can't say that, like, especially,
no.
And I do understand like difference between watching on TV also 3 hours later on the East Coast, and it's, you know, it's 5:45 on the West Coast, in the arena, right? Different perspective as far as on the match, but I did think Skye delivered, at least from my perspective. Shad, what were your thoughts on it? And then also, like we said, we have the Forbidden Door matchup coming up, the vignette,
Oh yeah,
all of that.
I'm excited for that. I'll break it down real quick in regards to segments. The first part, the opening segment, I don't have an issue with Mercedes starting off the show, just coming off of her big victory. But I do agree to Anthony's point. It would have made more sense playing a heel celebration because she was the heel going into the Willow feud. Now it's a complete 180. She's giving Willow her praise, her props for taking her to the max, telling her to go get Statlander and Stokely, attacking them and whatnot. So it was a little confusing, but she's still relatively over to the crowd. I'll let it play out. Maybe when the right opponent comes into play, maybe if her and Willow, tee off again, it'll make sense. The Skye Blue segment and match, I am very 50-50 on it because the segment I did not like. And I did not like it is because we randomly just burnt through a big moment for Mercedes in that beatdown a few weeks ago and just sprinkled it in a quick one-off match. I think that could have been a potential feud, and I would have probably saved it for after Forbidden Door, or at least during some time frame where you can build it for a couple weeks and have a big time main event match on a Dynamite. Because I think you don't. I get the idea of you're trying to elevate Skye Blue in the situation by giving her a title match and getting her in the ring with Mercedes, which the match was phenomenal. It was great match. I think Mercedes, she ain't lose a step in the ring. She says that she's the best women's wrestler of all time. Her claim can be, said because she is that darn good as a wrestler. And they had a great match. But I don't feel that Skye Blue has elevated in the scenario because where does she go after this, right? Are we going to just wait for Julia Hart to come back? Like, Skye Blue's a person who's just kind of hanging over there, and she's, delivering in prominent moments when they give it to her, but they haven't given her the chance to, run, like, handle the ball and let her run, right? Like, she's that rookie that's got a lot of potential, but you're not letting that rookie get the reps. She's that good. She reminds me a little bit, with just the, like, facial expressions and the demeanor and all of that, like a person who could be a very legit heel in that women's roster down the road. Like I would put her maybe a notch below what we see what Mariah May does. Only difference is I think Mariah May is a significantly better character and talker, but Scott Blue can develop into that. So, but match solid. Mercedes got a good title defense. They, that's kind of when the show picked up for me is when they had their match. Now we get to Forbidden Door, and I don't know if you guys are familiar with Stephanie Vakir, but she is a very, very talented women's wrestler. The first time I saw her wrestle, funny enough, was with Mercedes last year, they had probably one of Mercedes' best matches post WWE run. Great battle. And I like the story that we're continuing where Mercedes's former foes that she's wrestled prior to coming to AEW are finding a place back with her in AEW. I think they're gonna tear the house down. That might be a dark horse match of the night. You know, for those who are maybe gonna get excited for a build, it may not be super exciting just because there's a language barrier. Stephanie Valkyrie doesn't speak English, but the presence and all of that, it's gonna deliver. And it's gonna deliver as a match. So I'm definitely excited for that. I think Forbidden Door, like we'll talk about the other match. That's the first match that we got. That's like an actual Forbidden Door match. That's a opponent from an outside, promotion, not
Yeah.
AW versus an AW talent. So that's a good start to it, but we'll have to continue to see because I'll get to that later because there's a glaring hole, and Ben mentioned in the analysis episode earlier that AW low key is the pipeline, and they're stealing a lot of the talent that could potentially be in Forbidden Door, and now they're on the AW side. So
Yeah, it's tough to open the forbidden door if everybody's already walked through it, right? If they're on the other
right,
team, it definitely changes things. I completely understand that. We've also got a bunch of comments here from our good friend David Modge about Willow's out of the picture and got to work all the way back now. And then CEO was like, "Go get him, Willow." Here's what I'm saying. I think I actually pictured it differently last night when I was there, and the promo was being cut. I thought that was Mercedes' way of putting Willow over
yeah,
and sending her towards the world title picture. Willow Nightingale might be the perfect candidate down the road to battle with either a heel Mariah May or a triumphant Tony Storm. I don't think that's
right.
out of the equation. Those are totally enticing matchups. And that's the division I see Willow working her way into, especially after what the TBS title run was. For what it was, we can call her a transitional champ all we want. It meant the
So
world to a lot of people.
for sure. So to your point, I did think about it last night, and if Mercedes' title reign is to be like this, where it's a true workhorse title, TV title, I'm fine with it. That's
Yeah.
kind of what she wants to do. It's gonna basically pretty much be like Copeland. Like I'm looking at Mercedes in the same breath as Copeland, where she's here to have fun. She wants to
Yeah.
do different stuff, go against different people, have fun, rejuvenate her career in that way. Um, and that's cool. But it's one of those cases where she's not going to be doing this TBS stuff for that long because you definitely want to get her in the fold with a Tony Storm at some point. Um, and that's my fear is just the big names always are going to rise to the top in AEW for what the investment is, and we're gonna talk about Ospreay later. Like these brand new big signings that they have are gonna have to be in premier positions, and at some point, it may be sooner than later. For the AEW Women's Champion, there's a little bit of time just because Tony Storm is just doing lights out work and she's so over. At some point, they're gonna want to get Mercedes in that division, or the TBS title may
Yeah.
just overshadow the AEW women's division for the long haul because Mercedes is the bigger name compared to every other woman on the roster.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. And by the way, I do have to side note from last night's show. There was way more Bruv shirts sold and worn than I ever expected in my life.
They're
I
running,
saw
they're running.
quite
We're
a
gonna
few
talk about
Bruv
it.
shirts,
We're gonna talk
and
about it, and they
we
run
will get
into
to
that.
that
It's the
later
same
for
problem.
sure.
Yeah, like it's
But let's get
yeah.
into the next topic. Let's talk
Go ahead.
Swerve and Kill Switch, the artist
Hey,
formerly known as Luchasaurus. Okay, as a guy who was there last night, dude, Swerve card placement aside is so over. You can't make it up. The crowd was scorching for the entrance, Prince Nana is still over. That hasn't gone anywhere. It was absolutely electric for that. The match I thought was solid. I enjoyed it. I always enjoy seeing Kill Switch. I don't really understand how somehow Kill Switch is less cool than Luchasaurus. Maybe he needs to go back and still be a heel somehow. That's a hard one to wrap my head around, but it's like the timing of the name change and everything. Like,
and all the losses he's eaten.
yeah, it just doesn't make
That dinosaur
sense.
ate L's.
He has. I mean, the match he had with Darby at All Out last year was absolutely off the charts electric. It was outstanding. It was one of the best bell to bell matches of that night, and that's one of that, like, for in ring stuff is looked upon very fondly.
Right.
I thought this match was solid. Swerve's still super over. I'm stoked about Swerve, but we got to get him in a main event, and we need him in the main event more often and featured more prominently, because no matter where you feature him, he gets cheered like the main event guy. But that would be my one complaint coming out of this, is it was bogus. The timing of the match, the scheduling of the match, and the booking. Shad, are you in agreement on that?
I'm gonna sound like a broken record every week. We have to talk about Swerve. If this continues to happen, he is not getting the same treatment as AEW world champion as the other champions have had. I don't know if it's a situation where they don't feel like he's that guy, because they're not treating him like he's that guy. When does your world champion weekly have to wrestle at the 9 o'clock slot or the second slot after the first promo? Like, it doesn't happen. And the fact that he's wrestling every single week is making it feel like he's a mid-card champion, a TV champion. I don't understand it at all. To your point, Swerve is incredible. I always say it. He's undeniable. He's going to be over on all facets because he's an incredible character. He's got an incredible look, and his in-ring ability is top tier. But for some odd reason, the booking in AEW doesn't view him in that same boat. And I don't know if it's just the fact that they have other storylines where they see it a little bit more important. EVPs, Mercedes in the fold now, whatever it may be. But the world champion always got to sit up on top. He's the face of the franchise. You have to treat him like that. He's not the third option here. He's your main guy. And having him wrestle last night against Luchasaurus, which was pointless to me. I mean, you have him in a gimmicky match because of the House of Dragon. You could have had anybody wrestle Luchasaurus last night because he's just the dragon or the dinosaur for that. It didn't have to be Swerve in there. And I know it's the whole that's his last person to beat in the whole patriarch. No, you beat Christian. You beat the main boss. You didn't. Luchasaurus is not the main boss.
You beat the man to be the man.
Yeah, you don't go on a little side quest and beat another little like lackey just to finish it off. Like, no, you knock off the main guy, right? And then it's done. I mean, I would have rather him hit the whatever that main move on Mama Wayne rather than wrestle Luchasaurus. That would have been crazier, right? I'm just joking around.
I got my Mother Wayne bracelet on. I don't know about that.
I'm just joking around.
I know. It's too funny. Bobby Petito, by the way, in the same boat. Swerve Strickland is great, but someone in AEW should put respect on Swerve Strickland's name. Yes, absolutely. Although David Modge I want to see MJF back to a championship title match. Not before Adam Cole and not on Swerve, not right away. Stop that talk.
The thing is this, man. We've
respect
had
David,
him as champion. He's been champ for a few months, and we've already have the writing on the wall for him to be done. And we had an incredible build to get him to become champion. He had to get it out the mud to get where he's at.
Yeah.
In position to be the world champion. And now it seems like it's nothing. Like, there's going to be a good episode of Take It to the Table coming up, and that topic will be raised up. But, like, to me, it is kind of similar to what WWE did with Kofi. Like,
totally
fought his way, got that moment, and then they're like, all right, cool.
Here's Brock.
You got
Whoops.
your moment. You're not really the champion though. Come on, man.
Yeah,
We got the other guy. It's
it's
trash.
it's brutal, but really quick. We got to pay some bills here. We've got the Next Level app. If you haven't checked it out, they're our partners. Go to nxconnect.me/Western Republic. All of our content across all platforms linked all in one place. No gimmicks, no nothing. Giveaways all the time. All kinds of cool stuff. We sent 2 people to Mania. We sent 2 copies of WWE 2K24, $100 to the WWE shop. There's giveaways all the time, and it's free to sign up. Absolutely nothing gimmicked here. It's really easy to find good wrestling content, quality wrestling content over on Next Level. And if you haven't checked it out already, please do. But let's keep talking about Dynamite, my friends. Let's get back into Dynamite. Let's talk about TV time with Chris Jericho. As the leader of the Hookamaniacs, this one broke my heart last night because from where I was sitting, first off, I still don't know where Joe came from. And I don't even know what they said, but I love the idea of Joe and the Hookster teaming together, uniting as one. I'm excited about that. I thought the segment itself was kind of funny. There was like Big Bill was really entertaining and funny on the way out while they were during commercial and then during the exit during commercial. But those were kind of the highlights for me, Anthony. So I got to ask you, on television, was this as clunky as some parts of it felt in the building?
I would like to use my TV time to talk about Jordan Grace and Ethan Page from
No.
NXT because I didn't get a chance to, and that was phenomenal. But this cluster mess of please retire, clap, clap, clap. Oh no, wait, it's TV time with Jericho, whatever the stupid name is. I hated it. I know it's supposed to be cringe. I don't find entertainment in this. Big Bill was a monster 7-footer. Like, this is a guy that should be
Well, you
destroying
can't teach
people.
that.
Not making a fool of himself and being Jake Hager without the stupid purple hat. Like, essentially that's what role he's in because Hager's not there anymore. Brian Keith, I thought was horrible. I thought that was stupid as anything. I'm glad to know that you were there, Clark, and Samoa Joe just kind of came out of nowhere and you didn't even see where he came from because the TV audience didn't know where he came from. The positive I have to say is, as a longtime viewer of Joe, it's kind of a full circle moment because if you know Joe's history, at one time he was mentored by Taz in TNA. So now he's taking Taz's son under his wing, which I think is a nice touch. And if anybody could help Hook elevate himself, I think Joe is the guy. I think Hook's best run was him against Joe. Really, I think it's been downhill ever since. The Jericho stuff has not helped. The Jericho stuff, I know it's supposed to be cringe, but I don't see any entertainment in it. Like, I don't find it entertaining. I look at it as this is a waste of TV time that's getting no one over, and you have an entire locker room full of talent that deserves to be on TV, but they're not getting featured because Jericho needs to have fun with the crowd that they are telling him to retire, and out of spite, he needs to be on there every week and taking up TV time. I think that's the problem here. I don't think Hook gets over with this feud because Jericho's not getting anybody over. No one's getting over by Jericho. No one has.
Yeah, while I hear you, I do find the entertainment in it. I love the tongue in cheek, making fun of all of the cliches gets me, like using all the phrases. Like, I can't lie, I laughed at the jokes, like almost begrudgingly last night sitting in the crowd. Like, I'm like, okay, no, that's clever. Like, shot your
The fear is just history seems to repeat itself when Jericho actions. And I guess that's kind of like, because we saw it with the Inner Circle, it had a shelf life and it died out. And it
Yeah.
didn't really benefit a lot of people. JAS, similar thing. All those people were not, besides like I don't know, the guy who's on commentary, maybe Daniel Garcia, I guess, but he wasn't even really like an original member off the gate. And now we got this. It Big Bill is someone who it's different, and I don't know how it's gonna work for him with his character wise. Like he's got charisma and he's doing that, but it's kind of like corny comedy. And then Brian Keefe is very talented professional wrestler and very talented character, like a very cool character in the independent circuit. I feel like you could do it differently. He's a bounty hunter. Like you could
Yeah.
be a contract killer. Like, but they're like I don't know if he's gonna be in this comedy thing. Like the comedy aspect for the two members in the group have me kind of like I don't know how this is gonna work.
While I hear where that's coming from, I will at least say I thought it was funny enough, right? Like the comedy aspect, it is funny. Like if you really think about it, like the TV time, all the phrases, it's like they're just poking fun at, they're just poking the bear. They're poking us back, and I get that it's go away heat at times, but in a weird way, it was like fun go away heat.
It's
The crowd was hot for the segment.
It's not
It
even
was funny.
It's not even go away heat. It's go retire heat, which is unheard of.
Yeah, but that's just I don't even think it's go retire heat. Actually, it's just fun.
They said please retire.
I know it's fun to chant though. It's funny. Now, okay. Speaking of funny, let's talk about another formerly known as a comedy character, but a guy that everybody is behind. Orange Cassidy, and maybe the slimiest slime ball in all of wrestling, but a man that is nothing short of entertaining. Don Callis, the contract ripping segment last night. I had a blast with it. I thought it was fun, but it was a little bit out there. I don't know what I think about Trent in the singles division. I don't know what Sue thinks of all of this. The whole Chuck Taylor retiring thing, I still haven't even really wrapped my head around. But we've got OC and Don Callis. Talk to me about it, Shoddy. He's not in the family, man. Hands in pockets until he ripped up that contract.
Well, you know, Chuck Taylor's are to be retired after you wear him out too much. So that it had the writing was on the wall for him. Man, oh man, oh man. This is a confusing storyline to me because I like everybody in the storyline. I just don't like the storyline. And I don't like it because it's took it so many peaks and valleys of how we got here. Obviously, from the beginning of Don Callis trying to, recruit Orange Cassidy, I think the end goal was always going to be Chuck Taylor was going to align to the Callis family because we can't see OC going heel and joining Callis. That doesn't make sense. But how we got the final turn last night was like a big letdown in many ways to me, bro, because a couple things. One, if you're going to establish Chuck Taylor as a single star, he's got to get a meaningful victory. And I can't stress this enough. I love Orange Cassidy, but they really, really want to make him Thanos because he is darn near unbeatable. That how many wins he has in AEW has to be like up there. Like he probably is like Floyd Mayweather in AEW for how many W's he got from one title reign.
You got more knockouts with the Orange Punch
than Floyd, right? He ain't ducking nothing. And it's one of those cases where it's like OC's character is so beloved and he is Teflon. He could have lost to Chuck Taylor at the pay-per-view, and you could have let that been the unrevealed. Like, okay, kid, you knocked out the person I wanted to sign. I want you instead. I don't want him. That would have been a way better move to make this happen because I don't necessarily dislike if we're gonna go Chuck Taylor's a single star, whatever. I'm not a fan of it. I think
Trent,
the best friend. I mean, my bad, Trent.
Chuck
Beretta,
retired.
Sorry.
Chuck's retired.
Sorry, Chuck. Trent,
the Kentucky gentleman.
Trent Beretta. I would have rather it been best friends because I feel like they were an underrated tag team and they never got an opportunity to win gold. I think you could have done a lot with them. But if you're gonna make them a single star, cool. Turn them heel, let them join the Callis family. How we got here, I can't take it serious. You're a loser. You don't win. Like what am I gonna? What threat are you gonna impose in this family? And this is the other fact. This faction is like the United Nations, bro. Like, like you got like different people from different walks of life that should not be working for this guy, man. Like
Wow.
I don't understand it at all.
I do
It
agree with you on that. Although I will say it's funny, the United Empire influence. Since you just said United Nations, I'm like, why does he not call it the United Nations of Don Callis instead of the Don
the
Callis
UN
family?
versus let's do it. UN versus well, ain't one of the UE members is in this.
The UNDC. That's my point. That's why it's so funny. I'm like,
Yeah,
they
you
gotta
got
rename
an
it
it's
the
crazy. You got an Australian, you
UNDC,
got a British guy, you got a gentleman from Japan, and now you got the Kentucky man, right?
the
It's
United
all
No,
Nations of Don
that's
Callis.
Chuck.
No,
Chuck is the
Chuck's Kentucky. Trent's from
where's Chuck
I
from?
think
I don't know where he's
I think
It's
Trent's from Louisiana, I believe. If I'm
yeah. He's not from Kentucky.
not 100% sure on that one.
right.
Actually, he might be an East Coast guy. If anybody in the comments knows where Trent Beretta's from,
I look it
comment
up,
it.
but I got to go next.
I'll read
so-
it. But let's talk
Wait, one
about
last thing though. One last thing though before we
yes,
switch to it.
Mhm.
I do not
two
understand.
if you want it.
Two. One, I do not know why Chris Statlander and Stokely Hathaway came in out
I
of
didn't understand
nowhere.
it.
I did like Stokely Hathaway quote Kendrick Lamar. That was
That's
kind
great.
of cool. But I don't know why they came out there. The moment of the entire thing with all of that is the Chris Statlander promo to Willow backstage. That was cool. That's all I gotta say. Stat, you're amazing. You're amazing, Stat.
That's great.
You were the only person in Best Friends not named Orange Cassidy that I care about. But now you're not a best friend anymore.
I
So
feel bad for Chuck.
I got your answer. Trent
So-
Beretta's from Mount Sinai, New York.
Oh, see, there you go.
he's
a
an
New
NY guy.
Yorker.
Oh,
I
and they
guess
got is Hobbs still part of Callis's family?
he
was.
Although
hurt.
he's injured, I believe so.
He's injured.
pre-injury. Yes,
What kind of family are they? They not even visiting my man. Did they give him flowers at the hospital?
not that I
Probably
know
not.
of.
I'm sure
Maybe.
Don sent him a painting.
Maybe a card,
Gosh,
a nice dozen donuts.
I like Callis, but he's really holding a lot of these guys in that section back, man.
A nice gift basket.
It's a real mystery. Him and Jericho are such good friends. They're both doing the same thing.
You got to imagine that Callis sent Will Hobbs at least like a charcuterie board or something like.
I'm telling you, he sent him a painting.
A nice gift.
Will Hobbs only eats like the Liver King menu of food, probably, except it's cooked though.
I imagine Will Hobbs just eats tomahawk steaks off the bone at all times.
That and like 4 rotisserie chickens from Costco.
Yeah, pretty much. Like,
that dude is jacked, man.
And he's putting down like 400 grams of protein a day.
Yeah, bro. It's crazy.
There's no doubt about it.
I'm a big Hobbs to catch the Ospreay fan. I would just rather them not be in this faction.
Yeah, Hobbs is definitely in flip a car territory when it comes to strength.
Sure.
But let's talk about the Elite. In just west of their hometown of Rancho Cucamonga, in Los Angeles last night. Speaking of hometowns, Christopher Daniels makes an appearance. Big old announcement. He's got some authority here. Honorary EVP.
That wasn't Adam Pearce. I thought it was Adam Pearce. My bad.
Nope, it wasn't. But I thought it was.
No, our
maybe.
truth. It was not. It was not.
No, it wasn't. I will say my only thing that was disappointing about it was I knew that they went to commercial.
That was a good one.
Tell, but when he was leaving, there was an SEU chant. That would have been cool. I feel like if they could have caught that on the broadcast, because it was cool. There was a big like Daniels definitely got recognized in LA for his contributions SoCal wise. There's a lot of people in like PWG gear and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it was timely in that regard, but kind of a wild segment. I mean, am I right or am I right that Okada used some profanities there? That was TBS Couldn't have liked that one, but either way, I loved the segment, and I love the idea of Christopher Daniels joining the EVP ranks here. Anthony, gotta get your thoughts on it. We've had a little general negativity here. Do you have something good to say about this one? I'm kidding.
I'm gonna get the negative stuff out of the way first.
Bad news, good news. I like it.
Yes, I'm gonna do it that way. Quite frankly, this is supposed to be AEW's hottest storyline. It's battle of for the power in the company. The Elite won. The problem with this is we know Tony Khan's backstage. He owns the company. He outvotes the Elite for everything. He owns the company. Yet he's still there, and the Bucks are still trying to do things, and they're bringing in Christopher Daniels to counteract the Bucks. Why? Tony's there. It only makes sense if Tony's not there. I don't understand having an authority figure to counteract the Bucks, and you're not counteracting them because they have 2 votes unless they're allowed to. Are they splitting votes? They only get 1 vote against his, but then you still need a tiebreaker. It doesn't make any sense. Make sense of this shit. If you want me to care, it needs to make sense, and it doesn't make sense. The positives of the segment, I will say this. Okada, I loved him popping for the car and doing the fake tear thing and then just deadpanning. Like, I thought that was great. I thought that was the most entertaining thing I've seen Okada ever do in AEW. That reaction and just stone facing it. I thought that was great. Obviously them trying to give the title to Jack just because and not getting countered, I thought was a nice move. I mean, they do some positives, but consistency is the problem. Like, if you're going to have Tony Khan there, it's almost as they would have been better off if there was a stipulation to the Anarchy match that Tony Khan is banned from AEW for the next, 90 days. Then you can kind of run wild with it and have the EVPs and say, before Tony was banned, he named me and I cannot be fired by you. I can only be fired by Tony Khan directly. Then you might have something there where there's a fight for authority. But we know Tony's back there. So it doesn't work. There's not a believability there. And that's the problem. Like, if you want me to care as an audience member, there has to be stakes. There's no real stakes in this. We know it's not, it doesn't work. There's no consistency in the storytelling. And overall, I think it's going to hurt the product.
Yeah, I hear that for sure, but I do think the Elite did their job, at least last night, in some regard. But I do, as someone who was in the building and watched Tony Khan open the show and close both shows, I do absolutely hear where you're coming from when it comes to those sentiments. Like, yeah.
I mean, it's not like they said, oh, when Tony was rolling down the ramp, he twisted his ankle or something and he's out. Like,
there was he was in the building. We had already heard from him by the time that they were in the ring.
Well, no, as far as the TV audience, as far as the TV audience,
even the TV, right? But I mean, in the building, right? Like, if the reaction in the building is as if Tony's not there, and even if he is, right? Let's say he is backstage and he's there, but the reaction in the building is that he's not. And they're running the show, then okay, right? That's different, right?
There's consistency.
But I mean, I actually think it because we had already seen Tony by that point. And I don't usually like to be overly critical of Tony Khan because everybody else does it for me. So it's like, okay, whatever. I mean, like, it's too late, right? I'm just like, I don't want to be a vulture. Right. Last thing I want to do is pick up scraps. That's not right. I'm like, might as well try to find some positive, but I will say that one in particular, the fact that he opened the show very clearly stoked to be in LA and do all of that. It took steam out of the live segment. Whether you were in the building or not, right? Okay. Let's talk about the Casino Gauntlet though. Will Ospreay. Okay, that dude in person is that good. It's funny. I mentioned earlier in the show, a lot of people in Bruv shirts. A lot of people in Bruv shirts. And I've been trying to not like him for so long.
I know you have.
I've been trying. I've literally worked to be like, I'm not gonna be an Ospreay guy. Dang, he's so good, man. Dang, he's so good. He is so good. Like, reluctantly, the guy is just sublime.
Yep.
Like the timing, the
disappointed me,
sound.
Clark.
I know, Shad. Like, dude, I'm trying.
It's Team America here.
I still don't like Bruv. And I don't care about Bruv. But when that dude starts professional wrestling,
he's an incredible wrestler. I'm not gonna. I can't deny that.
Yeah.
In person, you're watching and you're like, that's a world class athlete in the ring. Like, he has gears that other pro wrestlers don't have, and he has the depth of moveset, the sight, it's every little piece of it on top of the natural talent. Like,
he's bell for bell the best wrestler in the world currently.
Yeah,
like, he's got that. He's like reminiscent of like 04, 05 AJ Styles, like kind of good. Like he's that good. Like, no one's denying that.
Yes. Okay. Before I ask you though about this whole thing, because my favorite part of it in the building obviously was every entrance you'd get a good pop. So it was just fun to be in the crowd for sure. But speaking of pops, Bobby Batista with a comment here it was awesome to see Leo Rush. Me and my mom were like, no way. It was awesome. It was cool.
I did not expect.
Yeah.
In his New Japan gimmick where he's been at his finest of late too. That one got me really excited. I enjoyed
not the creepy one though.
Not the creepy one, not the overly creepy one though. No, but with the he had the whole swag. It was sick.
He snuck in the Seth's closet for the jacket.
Honestly, I will say, like, this is no spoilers, but come Friday, definitely do check out Isaiah Cassidy and Ray Phoenix. I'm not gonna say what happened, but Isaiah Cassidy looked outstanding, got a much bigger response than I expected. And the match was off the charts, and it was cool because they do take the show home and everything. And no spoilers, no nothing other than that match is definitely worth a watch. Shoddy, though, I gotta ask you about the Casino Gauntlet before we get into throwback here eventually. Ospreay with the big win and still tied to that Callis family.
So let me get this out the way first. In regards to the concept of the Casino Gauntlet, I thought it was a very creative match. I thought it was very entertaining. Having a Royal Rumble-esque match, but having it in a scenario where the person has to get the first pin was great. I like the implements of all the talent that came in. Cool to see Mystico, Leo Rush, the other gentleman from CMLL. They a couple guys from New Japan. It was great, fun, good pacing. Pac excelled per usual. Looked great in the match. Ospreay did his thing. The winner, Will Ospreay. The issue I have is this: one, you are putting the writing on the wall for Swerve Strickland's title reign to end a lot sooner than it needs to be. Whether that happens on June or whether it happens again in August, I don't know. But you're telling me that this guy, this bruv, is going to be your next champion, and you are putting Swerve in a very, very difficult place because you're splitting hairs. This is the second title defense he has, and people are arguing that he needs to lose it because they like it's one of those cases, man. The new kid in school got flyer gear, or the new girl in school, right? Some different, looks different. Everyone is more intrigued by it. Ospreay's here now, and it's going to be difficult for Swerve because one, I know the match is going to be sensational, and I understand why you're doing it because New Japan lacks having main event stars to have it because you didn't sign all the main event stars. You got Ospreay, you got Okada, you got Jay White, right? There ain't nobody I can name that can main event that. So that's whatever. CMLL, I don't really know anybody who can main event it. but you are putting yourself in a tough position for your champion because I don't know if he's gonna be the favorite or beloved the most in the match. So I'm scared for it. Um, Besides that, man, I don't I don't know, bro. It's just adding on to what I said earlier in the show. There's a lack of respect for Swerve as champion, and it is the same exact booking that WWE is doing with Damian Priest. You are putting him in a tough position when you're putting him in matches with a Drew McIntyre, with a potential Gunther, because they're gonna want to see those guys be the champion instead of them. The only difference is Swerve isn't doing nothing wrong. Swerve is doing everything right, but you're not
Yeah.
letting him shine, and it's garbage. It's trash. Basura, but I'm gonna watch the match and I'm gonna love it.
I know, and I agree with you too because it, like I said though, last night being in the building, the Swerve's House shirts. Speaking of, I mentioned the Bruv shirts; those ones sold a lot too. In the rows where I was sitting, it was a lot of Swerve. Big pressure hitting was the definitive biggest pop of the night by far, by far, and that includes the CEO. That includes hometown guys, a lot of good stuff, right? Like not good stuff, but local stuff that might create a generally bigger pop, right? The Young Bucks are Southern Californians. You know, you Mercedes Mone
Get the hometown cheer
in the forum, right? You have all kinds of stuff there. CMLL, I will say this: perfect spot to have them on a card is Los Angeles, because there were pops specifically for all of the CMLL talent. Anthony, I'm gonna ask you really quick before we get into throwback, just what you thought about that and the Ospreay stuff.
I think Ospreay's a once in a generation talent. I've said it before. I think the progression is Shawn Michaels, AJ Styles, Will Ospreay. It just is the best in that ring. I think it is a little surprising that they're pulling the trigger this soon, because I think everyone expected this to be all in. I'm thinking a huge reason for this, and again, I agree with Shad's point that they're really not booking Swerve right. Like it's like I've never seen a world champion being a big deal, first African American AEW world champion, and he's booked like it doesn't matter, and it's a shame. You know, I think a huge reason they booked the Ospreay thing is the same thing, and I know we don't get into dirt sheet stuff, but the rumors were that Forbidden Door was supposed to be an Arthur Ashe, and they were afraid they weren't going to be able to sell it out.
Right.
And I think that's a huge reason why they're doing Ospreay Swerve, because they don't want to not sell out in New York. New York's the market they want to sell out. It's a huge deal. So I think that's a huge reason why they're doing it.
100%. I agree with you, but we have such a wicked throwback topic. We could talk about Dynamite for the rest of the show, but we're definitely not going to do that. And I really do wish we could play the music because
dun, 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 dun.
Dang, I like the Wolfpac, man. It was like my favorite. Big Kev basically previewing it
Wolfpac,
on
Wolfpac
the
is back
way
causing
to
mass
the
destruction.
introduction.
Yeah, the
You
bad
have
boys arrested. There's some competition in the wars, isn't it?
get him, Shoddy. Get him. I'm just saying, man, if you think about the NWO over its lifespan, it was one of the coolest things in all pro wrestling. And the Wolfpac might have been the coolest part. And even as simple, before I toss this to you, Anthony, the simplicity of the spelling, PAC, Tupac.
You can trademark it too. That's
fresh
the other
out of Tupac, though. Fresh off Tupac, Shakur. And the backwards bandana from Kevin Nash, bro. All of it. And it was all the coolest NWO members. K-Dog, Conan made electric. Even the moments with Scott Hall, Luger, Sting, the Wolfpac, Macho joining was great. It's to me, it's the best. It's like
joining was the best.
It's like one of those few things that's like a sequel that's better than the original. Like
The
I always say,
Empire Strikes Back.
I always say Horrible Bosses 2 is better than 1. I've always believed.
Really?
Yeah, I think 2 is better. Roar by
That's a
Katy
whole
Perry.
nother debate show.
Is that Roar by Katy Perry? These guys are clever. It's one of the greatest lines. But no, the Wolfpac was iconic. I loved it. Anthony, resident historian, break it down for us. Talk to me, my friend.
I mean, it is wild that, you look at the NWO Wolfpac, Red and Black, started in 1998, 2 years after the original. The iconic Red and Black, to this day, 26 years later, it is still a top-selling shirt for WWE. And the wild part is, if you look at the history of this particular iteration, the split off NWO, it didn't last very long. It lasted for a very short period of time, but it is one of the most iconic groups of all time. There have been a number of people in and out of the group, but the core members were always Kevin Nash, which was obviously 1/3 of the founders of the original NWO. Macho Man joined the group, obviously a longtime rival, both on and off screen, of Hogan, and was in the NWO White and Black at one point. Luger was a diehard WCW guy. Like you said, Conan, which was a great addition to the group, and Sting, the infamous red and black paint Sting. I loved watching this. The entrance music is still one of the greatest of all time. Like Clark said, we'd probably have it playing the entire time during the show, like AEW plays music during the Anarchy match. We probably would have played Wolfpac the entire episode if we were legally allowed to. Sting is one of those interesting ones because he was diehard WCW against the NWO. When Sting went red and black, WCW really didn't have that champion against the NWO unless maybe DDP and maybe Goldberg, but Goldberg was never a part of like the group to fight for WCW. I remember they did I believe it was the War Games that the Warrior debuted in.
Yep.
They had done Team WCW against Team NWO versus Team Wolfpac. They did, which was really bizarre because if you go back and look, the War Games cage was so low, the ceiling, and to have that many people in there was just complete chaos. And then you added the Warrior and his smoke and all that other stuff. But the Wolfpac, it was supposed to counteract the original NWO. And what ended up happening was they ended up getting more popular than anybody in WCW. It became a promotion where it only mattered. It was the two rivals, NWO and Wolfpac. No one cared about WCW, which was a shame because that technically is the company. The group was short-lived. It ultimately ended, Nash beat Goldberg and ended the streak, which we've obviously covered before. And it pretty much died unofficially with the finger poke of doom. And then they merged them because I guess, backstage politics.
And that's when we got the Real B Squad.
Yeah, I mean that's when backstage politics probably played a role where Hogan didn't like the fact that he was not in the top NWO, so now we need to merge them and claim
they were less cool NWO.
Yeah, and that's what ultimately ended up happening, which would have been the worst version of it if they didn't go silver and black as the last iteration during WCW. That'll be a follow-up throwback.
The whole thing's brutal.
But Wolfpac is one of the most iconic, the symbol and everything. It still holds up, and it probably the white and black is the iconic history-making one, but for cool factor, red and black was the cooler of the
I just remember getting the CD and having it on my Walkman and strapping that thing to my basketball shorts and shooting hoops in the driveway as a kid. Like, woo, every time, and just absolutely throwing up floaters like it was nobody's business. To me, it was the coolest iteration. Yes, it was short-lived. We got a bunch of great comments here from Coach 23 about when I was young and the Wolfpac was formed, I already thought and knew it was cool and awesome. Then he said, when I grew into adulthood, my thought was like, didn't Sting fight tooth and nail against the NWO?
Yes.
Now he's an NWO
He was an
member.
NWO.
Absolutely.
And I think that was like the wildest part of it too, is just the fact that when he joined them and whatnot, like you just did not expect that to happen, but it was such a blast. And I mean, yeah, man, like to y'all's points, like aesthetically, they were so cool looking, man. Like the black and red, like I love black and red as a color combination, and just everything looked so cool together. The faction was so badass. The song, I'm a hip hop fan. C Murder, No Limit,
Oh yeah.
rapping to the intro, whatnot, iconic to say the very least. And it's just crazy. Like to Andy said, it wasn't that long of a team like that. That's like WCW was kind of going crazy with just like it felt like the Wu-Tang Clan, bro. Like they had like so many different members and whatnot. But it was fun. It was so fun, man. And like those are like just fond memories of like that era of WCW when just the initial NWO and then all of this happened was so good. I believe this was like right when X-Pac 6 went back to the WWF, like right?
Yep. Yeah. He would have been a Wolfpac member had he not gone and joined DX. I actually think the Wolfpac, in some ways, not to get into like a crazy debate here at the end of the show, but just, I was really young at the time this all happened. I was like, in elementary school and watching this stuff and listening to the stuff that maybe I shouldn't have been. Maybe I should have been. Who knows? That's probably how I ended up here. But at the same time, like the idea that X-Pac, 1, 2, 3 kid Sean Waltman ends up in WWE and joins DX. I actually thought the Wolfpac was the answer to DX, kind of in some ways, as best they could. I thought that's kind of where it came from. Kevin Nash doing the Tupac bandana thing and trying to make it really hip hop and cool in a way. It was like they didn't quite do the edginess of DX. They didn't go full Attitude Era, but they had a bit more or different, like a hip hop cool vibe in its own way for the time, right? It didn't actually live up to like actual hip hop, but like the song and then the ethos of the group as a whole was to be the cooler version of the current NWO.
It epitomized the 90s. The late 90s, that was the definition of the late 90s. Like you look at that group and the
my
style.
favorite action figure of all time. My Scott Hall Wolfpac.
NWO was more
he was never
like
actually a member. Technically, Disco was a member. He was not actually a member.
The funniest part is he did don the shirt, and that's why in the Revenge video game, he's in the Wolfpac and in the black and white. He's the only one in both groups.
The funny part is with him is he wore red and black before they even did the Wolfpac. Like, which is the wild
the Outsiders did.
Yes, but that's what I'm saying. Like that was their color. Yeah,
it was the color.
I mean, it's one of those just iconic times. To me, it's funny. I think Kevin Nash gets a lot of heat about his career and for different various reasons and whatnot.
I don't know why. I don't know why people.
But he was so dang cool. Kevin Nash was so dang cool, and the definitive leader of the Wolfpac. And that's my biggest memory is K Nash was like everybody wanted to be like Kevin Nash. In some ways, like with their group of friends, you always thought like, I could be the Kevin Nash of the. I got my Wolfpac, right? Like
Nash always got stuff because they're like 5 moves of doom. It doesn't matter how many moves you have. Did you entertain the crowd? Did you sell merch? Did you make an impact in this business? Yeah, more than people that do 7,000 moves.
Coach 23, by the way, here with Scott Hall was a Wolfpac member during the Finger Poke of Doom in the Georgia Dome. He's right. I forgot about that. It was like a 2-week deal.
Yeah.
Well, that's where I got the figure. I'm telling you. See, I got proof. He wasn't a Wolfpac.
No, you're right. It was.
He was always wearing that gear.
Oh, man. Okay, but that does bring us to the end of the show. It's Throwback Thursday. It's been a blast. As always, as is every Thursday, we appreciate you. If you haven't liked and subscribed, please do. It means the world to us. On behalf of me, Anthony, Shad, everybody at Wrestling Republic, have an awesome Thursday evening and enjoy the wrestling this weekend. We don't have 2 pay-per-views like last weekend, but it's still going to be fun.
Get a break.
Have a good one. Have